Thero Swamin Hansa. I respectfully invite our Venerable Thero, Deegoda Dhammadassi Thero, to start this Dhamma discussion. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theruvan Saranai, everyone. Today also we are going to have a Dhamma discussion on the main key concepts of Dhamma, and also we are going to discuss the practical aspect of how to follow this Arya discipline and fulfill our primary goal, the only goal, which is attaining Nibbana. So today also there are people gathered from various parts of the world with the intention of having a Dhamma discussion. And as we have spoken before, this is not a coincidence. This is a result of causes coming together to give out an effect, and the effect today is to open up our eyes of wisdom. So during this samsaric journey, we might have gathered immeasurable amounts of meritorious power based on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, doing various kinds of meritorious deeds towards the triple gems, towards the Arya individuals, and through that we might have gathered immeasurable amounts of meritorious power. And all that meritorious power may agglomerate together, creating the perfect environment for us to understand the Supreme Dhamma. All the meritorious deeds, all the meritorious power we have gathered throughout the samsara may agglomerate together, creating the perfect environment for us to understand the Supreme Dhamma, attaining Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arihat Phala, finally realizing the reality of the world, ultimately attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this blessing with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So today our topic is Raga, Dosha, and Moha. So Raga, Dosha, Moha is the problem of this world. That is why we are in a suffering samsara. So what our primary goal when it comes to Supreme Dhamma is eliminating all the Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. Raga kyo Nibbana, Dvesha kyo Nibbana, Moha kyo Nibbana. So as a person who has understood or who is understanding the reality of the world, our primary goal becomes none other than attaining Nibbana. So to attain Nibbana, we have to know what we have to achieve. So that Pali stanza gives us a good idea what our primary goal is. We have to get rid of all the Raga, Dvesha, and Moha in our lives. So to do that, we have to know what is Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. When we understand the nature or the main primary characteristics of this world, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, what happens is the Raga, Dvesha and Moha in our system starts to fade away. The strong nature of initial Raga, Dvesha and Moha starts to reduce. So Raga is actually Moha is the reason for starting of Raga, and Raga gives rise to Dvesha in some instances. So we have to first identify what Moha is. The Moha is a very deep word, because when talking about people, we have lay people as well as Arya people. And in Arya people also, Arya people starts from Sotapanna stream enterer and ends up in Arihat individual. So we have a lot of ground to cover there. So only person who does not have Moha, a little bit of Moha, even a little bit of Moha, the fine level of Moha is called Avidya. Avidya becomes dense and dense, and it becomes Moha. From Moha it goes to Amoha, and from Amoha it ends up in Vita Moha. So all the Moha is gone at that level. So the roots of Moha goes even to the Arihat stream enterer. So it's a very fine topic to talk about. We'll talk about the dense part of Moha, which we can understand, which we are able to see. And if we understand this dense part, it is the pathway or the door to understand the finer details as well. What is Moha? So Moha goes back to Avidya. What is Avidya? Nitya, Sukha, Artha, Subha are 4 words that can explain Avidya. So what we understand when understanding Avidya is about Nitya, about Sukha, about Artha, and about Subha. And we understand that this is not the truth. In fact, we are ignorant about the basic characteristics of this world. So to give you an idea, I'll explain through an example. Let's say we have a hot rod of iron. So we put a rod of iron on fire, and the rod of iron becomes red in color because it is full of heat energy, because due to its high temperature. Now, if someone gets attached to this rod of iron, of course that person would get burnt. Of course, we can use that rod of iron to various things. We can use it for good, important things. We can use it to start a fire. You can make something out of it, a knife, a sword, whatever it is. But if you get attached to it, if you try to touch it, if you try to see the fire or the heat in that rod of iron as beautiful, important, valuable, whatever it is, then that person can get hurt. So this is the nature of the dukkha lakshana. In Dukkha Laksana, it does not say that the world is suffering, but in the sense the world has a suffering feeling. You have to see the suffering, characteristic of suffering. That's why it's called the characteristic. You have to see the characteristic of suffering through wisdom. To see that, we have to see, using that example, all the things around us, all the things around you, including your mind, including your body, and all the external things you have, things that can be seen, things that can be heard, smelled, tasted, and felt. Everything. If you think them as these hot rods of iron, or flames, or fire, whatever it is, then you'd understand, yes, I can use them to good use when I have various needs. But if I go near them, if I get involved with them, I would get burnt. So I have to use them very carefully, is what you would understand. It's the same with the world. You have children, you have parents, you have spouses. Those are the external ones, external living things. There are external non-living things, houses, property, vehicles, clothes, and various things, shoes and everything. Those are external non-living things. And then comes the hard part, your body, the body parts, and your living soul, or we can say living self. It's so those are the most important things as an individual. So when you think those as yours, as you, as your self, then comes the problem. Then it is like hugging fire. Go with the example. Because they are, in fact, in those items, that burning nature, that vexatious nature is embedded in them. It is a part of them. So, if you get attached to those items, if you think those items are valuable and could give the happiness you sought, then that's a problem, because it gives the quite opposite of it. Now, that is the nature of avidya. You don't see the real nature, but you see a delusional, covered up myth. So, we'll go through an example and try to understand this part. So, you have children, and there are kids all over the world. Millions and billions of children are living in the world. The only thing that you are dear to out of those children is your child. You are concerned, you spend on that child, you try to protect that child, try to keep that child in good condition. And now you have to understand that living or non-living, that child is a part of the world, thing that is created out of causes aligning together to give out the effect. And what you are seeing is the effect. What you are hearing out of that child is the effect. So in that example, as you have understood through the example, so you have hugged the fire, you have hugged the hot iron rod. Since that object is in its nature, it is full of vexation, full of damage causing nature. When you touch it or when you hug it, so this word is referring, the word we are using right now is referring to attachment. When you get attached to something, why the attachment occurs? Because of value, because of not knowing this reality. Knowing this reality itself would get rid of the problem to an extent, at least. So you get attached. What happens when you get attached? That you becomes the owner of that vexatious nature. Now you have to be in constant fear, because whatever thing could happen to that child, there are fatal diseases in this world. There are fatal accidents. There are bad people who are trying to kill others, mug others, rob others. Various things can happen that you don't like to that child. So you are in constant fear. Not only that, you are trying to overcome those fears and you are doing your best to protect that child. So that is tiring. That is tiresome. If the child is not at home when he or she is supposed to, you become frightened. You cannot live with that fear. You do things. You run here and there. You make several calls. And you are praying that the best should happen and nothing bad should happen to that child. But as we talked before, when you see at the broader picture, there are millions and billions of children in this world, but you don't feel the same way. If you felt the same way, you would not be living a single day alive. You'd be dead, because you would not be able to bear that vexation, bear that suffering. Because if you see at the world, at least few millions of children are dead in a day due to wars, due to fatal diseases, due to accidents. And if you have thought that all of them are yours, and if you had the same attachment you have towards your child with those children, you'd be dead in few hours. So that is what you need to understand. You have to understand the reality or the real nature embedded in these items. These items that creates the world. It is a mental construct that said that this is ours. For example, what if you forget about everything next morning, or you meet with an accident and you forget about yourself, your children, spouses, and everything, and you become a new person? When you wake up, you can't remember anything. At that point, when something happens to that child, you are just a stranger to him or her. So no worries at that moment. You would worry that something bad happened to a child or a human. Other than that, that massive emotional roller coaster that one goes through does not occur at that point. So this is the you have to go in depth and use your wisdom to identify, understand through this example of fire about the real nature of the world. Of course, we are not saying that everything is suffering. When it comes to feelings, there are three types, which is very well explained in Buddhism. Blissful feelings are there. It is not a lie. Blissful feelings is a truth. Then there are neutral feelings and there are suffering feelings. Those are the three types of feelings we can experience when we are interacting with the external world. But the thing is, this suffering, characteristic of suffering, has to be seen through the eyes of wisdom and not through the feelings. Feeling in the sense what you get to through touch. When you touch images with your eye, what you get is the feeling of seeing. When you touch sound waves through your ears, what you get is the feeling of hearing. When you touch smell particles through your nose, what you get is the feeling of smelling. And this goes on for all the five senses. Now that is feeling, and what we are talking about is not the feeling, but the what you see through wisdom, the characteristic of suffering. That's why you have to get your brains involved and think about how this example very well explains the real relationship with us and the external world. As long as we decided that these are ours and these are me and myself, what happens is you become a applicant or a candidate for the suffering of this world. You apply yourself. Nobody else is forcing you to. But the avidya, the wrong idea about this world, makes us helpless and makes us slaves of this suffering world. So we become slaves of that same item that we thought ours. Think about it. What happens when you start thinking that this is your beautiful vehicle, house? You become a slave to it. When it, in your mind, that happens, of course, in your mind. In your mind, you have a specific picture. And that picture is what you are attached to. But that picture does not last in the outside world, it changes. Your house starts deteriorating and it starts, and various disasters could ruin your house. Tornadoes, hurricanes, or whatever it is. Nearby tree could fall onto your house. when those things happen, the picture you are attached to in your mind changes. Now there's a tree in the middle of the house. That is not what you got attached to. That is not what is in your mind, the picture. So you have to change it. Your mind says to you, clean me, repair me, and get me back to my previous condition. That's what your mind says when you get attached. So you becomes a slave when you do all those things. Paint me when the house becomes old and rusty and dirty. It says, paint me, clean me, and all the things are said, and you do all those things, and you think you are in control of everything, but in reality, all the things outside the world are controlling you, including your own body. Take me to the washroom. I have a full bladder. Take me to the kitchen. I am hungry. And so you are a puppet of this external world, including your mind. Don't think that you are the mind. When you think like that, you becomes the person who is suffering because of your mind. What did we say? Everything that is created in this world, when you start thinking that that is yours, that is you and yourself, that becomes a problem. That becomes, then you become a candidate or an applicant, and you applies for suffering. So this is what you need to understand. Then this is what we have to understand through Moha. Moha is, as we said, and now we are talking about Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. So when we talk about Moha, Moha is the nature of Moha is it covers up. What does it cover up? The reality. It has the ability to cover up the reality. So when the reality is covered up, it's like darkness. So this is another analogy we can go through. When it is darkness, we cannot see. So think about a place where there are a lot of dangerous animals, snakes, tigers, and a lot of carnivorous animals. Then crocodiles and everything is there. So in that environment, if you are blind, what would happen? You'd straight away go to a open mouth of an animal, or you would be bitten by a snake, a venomous one. This is what happens when you don't see the reality. You know that this world is a dangerous place, just like a place where there are a lot of animals that are waiting to eat you. On top of that, if you are blind, then you become really helpless. So that is the thing. You have to start thinking, start using your eyes of wisdom to open up the light. When the light is there, you can see, when your eyes are open, you are not blind anymore. You can see what is coming from a far away distance, and you can do whatever things needed to be done to avoid that. So this is a good meditation technique. You can start thinking all the things that are around you, including yourself, as fire. You can use the fire to good things. The fire is very valuable. In fact, it is the most important invention as said in science or history by the humankind. You can use it, but you should never use it in a wrong way. You should never hug it. You should never get attached to it, because fire is fire and it would burn. So this is the nature, or this is the wisdom that would get you out of moha, and the covered up layers would get removed when you think in this way. So we'll go to raga and try to understand what raga means, and understanding raga would give a more enlightening perspective about moha as well. So when it comes to raga, raga is the, if you go to the etymology of the word, it is a wandering in a specific area because of attachment, or seeing, because of seeing the value. So when you walk on a busy road in a city, there are various things that catches your eye, especially in malls and everything. So when you see a nice dress or a nice car, depending on what your likenesses and dislikes are, you get attached. It can be a song, part of a song that you hear. Doesn't necessarily have to be from your eyes, can be from your ears, can be from your nose. You smell something good. Let's say a good food or food item, whatever it is, and you taste something good and you feel something good. When you have this kind of a feeling, since you are not in good senses, that what I mean by that is, since you are not mindful, you forget about everything we discussed about fire. You are trying to play with fire. Now you have forgotten that. So what happens? You get attached to that image, to that sound, smell, taste, touch, or thought. When you get attached, the attachment is a process. It's not like I wanted to attach, so I attached. No. You attached because you saw value. You saw value because you thought that it is like sweet and nice. But in reality, it is a flame. So avidya was there, so the reality was covered up. So starting with moha, moha plus raga start working together. So now we are discussing about raga. So these two come together when it emanates. So what's happening with raga? So you got attached to that specific item you got through your five senses, and you start wandering in that specific area. Let's take an example. You smelt a nice pastry or whatever it is. Let's say a cake. You could smell the cake and you like cakes. Now you are walking towards your home, but your mind is in the bakery shop, attached to that smell attached, and through the smell, you start wondering, what could that smell be? What kind of a taste would that have if it is this good? The smell is this good. The cake must be very tasty, delicious, and it must be new, and it must be a chocolate cake. And you would start wondering. Now you are wondering, now there's a railroad, and you have a train fixed on that rails, and you are now traveling in that railroad, train of thoughts. Now the thought process, when you start creating it in a wrong way, now you are creating it in a way that it increases the value. So you are thinking in a way which increases the value or increases the avidya. And this itself creates a mindset. And this mindset, of course, if something is created in this world and you get attached to it, that's a fire, and you are hugging the fire. So you have created this mindset, and that mindset is deficient of cake. So you want cake, and you are failing this mindset. And when you fail this mindset, what happens? Thoughts no longer can treat that hunger which is created by the mind. So you have to use your words. You have to work more. Thinking is easier, but when you have to open your mouth, that is more harder. You can see that when you are in a very low energy mood, you can think. Let's say you are exhausted, you are faintish, and you can barely walk. So at that point, you are very hard. It is very hard for you to talk, but you can think, what would happen to me if will I die? Someone take me to the hospital. So it is when it is very important for you to communicate, you would barely communicate, because using your words is more dense or harder, and you have to work more. You have to put a lot of effort than thinking. And you would not stop there. You would start to use your body and use your actions as well, because when your thoughts are no longer enough to feed that mindset, you would start talking about it. And when you talk, the mindset grows, and more fuel is given, and the hunger becomes more and more, or the deficiency increases. And when this deficiency increases, you give more. You have to give more food, so you have to act. So when you start acting, there's a lot of things that comes with this process, a lot of suffering related to action. So you have to find money, otherwise you would not be able to taste that piece of cake. So you have to earn money, or you have to find money, and you have to come back to that shop, and you have to buy it, and you have to eat it, chew it, and swallow it. Everything takes your energy, and creating things or working on things is there's a hidden suffering. So you have to see these things with wisdom, as I said. Otherwise, you would think that these people are very lazy. It is not something about laziness. You would feel lazy if you don't like something. Say you are asked to jump 100 times for no reason, or walk 3 miles for no reason. On that occasion, you would feel very lazy, or lazy can be a word that can be used there. And the thing is, you would see the burden of it, the burden of walking, the burden of doing that thing. You would see the suffering at that point. The suffering is highlighted there. But what if somebody says, I'll give you $1,000,000 if you walk 3 miles, or $1,000? Million can be unrealistic. I'll give you $1,000 if you walk 3 miles, run 3 miles. Then all of a sudden, that suffering part that you understood just a while ago disappears, and value is added to that running. When the value is added to the running, you just do it. You'd say, what kind of a fool would not run 3 miles for $1,000? But in reality, you had to do the same amount of work. $1,000 did not reduce the amount of work that you had to do when running, because it's 3 miles, not like $1,000 reduced it to 3 meters. It's 3 miles. So this is what you need to understand. It is not about laziness, it is about seeing the real thing, which is always covered up with value, avidya, ignorance. So back to our topic. So the person is now creating all the actions through using his body, using his mind, and using his mouth. So thoughts, words, and actions are being created to treat that hunger. Because now, what happened? He thought that it is an important thing to think about, and start thinking in a wrong way, in a avidya developing way. So when it is developing, what you are doing is that as soon as the avidya is created, attachment comes along with it. So as we talked before, you are hugging fire. When the fire is hugged, you are burning. You have to do something. Now you are running, looking for water, looking for fire extinguishers, thinking and doing whatever you can to get rid of that fire. The same exact thing happened when you start liking that smell and start thinking in a wrong way. Now you are thinking in more wrong ways to get rid of the pain. And finally, what did you do? You went to that shop, you bought that cake, and you ate that, and you felt so happy that you ate it, because finally you could temporarily extinguish that fire, but it would come back, and you would not be able to get rid of that shop soon. You'd get attached to that shop, even the shop owner, even the person who is preparing that cake. Because if the person who prepared the cake dies, then that affects your process of extinguishing the fire. So you, without knowing, you are attaching to a lot of things. When you start from a small place, when you start from a very small place and you develop it to a very big area, very big very big area. So now that is Raga. And there's a very important classification when it comes to Raga. So Raga can be divided into three parts: Kama Raga, Rupa Raga, and Arupa Raga. And the former has the uh, burning nature, and the burning nature is higher in the former, and in the latter, the burning nature is less. But of course, all of them have this burning, vexatious nature in them. So let's try to sort these things out. So Kamaraga. Kamaraga is the most dense out of them all. And they give the most intense problems or vexations. We have five senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. So in these five senses, there are the last three: nose, tongue, and body. These are the things that are connected with Kamaraga. Of course, the eyes and ears, the things that are taken in through eyes and ears, that facilitates the action of nose, tongue, and body, are also included in the Kamaraga section. For example, for the smell, the person who wanted to eat that cake, he needs to use his eyes and ears to find it. He's looking for the shop, he's going in, you have to look for any barriers and obstacles, and you have to go towards the counter. Then he has to use his mouth and create sound and listen to the sound created by the other person. So that aspect or that part which belongs to the eyes and ears, which helps the action of nose, tongue, and body, are also included in Kamara. Because there are things that are not included, that are not facilitating nose, tongue, and body, but also a part of eyes and ears. For example, let's say you are looking at a beautiful scenery of a waterfall. Now, that does not facilitate your ears, your nose, tongue, or body. You are seeing a very beautiful plant which has a lot of flowers. You are seeing a statue of Supreme Buddha. You are listening to Dhamma. Now, when you are listening to let's say, a song that talks about food or talks about bodily touch or whatever it is, now that falls under Kamaraga because it facilitates the nose, tongue, and body. When you are seeing sceneries of food items that makes your mouth water, or when you see visuals or pictures of things that promotes bodily touch, then that falls under Kamaraga. But when it comes to things that are not facilitating the last three organs, that falls under Ruparaga. So that's where we draw the line. So Ruparaga and Kamaraga. So when you think deeper on this classification, you can very well understand that the things that increases your burning sensation, vexation, or the vexation or the deficiency is Kamaraga and not Ruparaga. A waterfall would not, or let's say you have seen, you are a person who travels a lot and you have traveled to several countries and you like scenery, nature, and you have seen these very beautiful waterfalls like Niagara Falls and everything. So when you think about that past experience, the amount of vexation that it creates is less than when you think about the smell which came from the new cake, the cake which was there in the bakery. When it comes to these last three senses, it creates more vexatiousness in your system. In other words, Kama Raga is more coarse in nature, coarse. It is very rough in nature, creates more burning, creates more pain. But when it comes to Rupa Raga, it is smooth, it is finer. So as it is finer, the amount of burning is less, but nevertheless it burns. That's the problem we have. So these are the classification. The first one, Kama Raga, and the second one, Rupa Raga. Rupa Raga are only taken with eyes and ears. And the final one is Arupa Raga. So here, we don't use the five senses. We use the sixth sense, thoughts, thinking. Thinking is what we use in Rupa Raga, and that is more, and the burning nature of Arupa Raga is lesser than Rupa Raga. So for the three sankharas or actions that we create in this human world, we create because of the energy that is created out of these actions that we perform in the area of Kamaraga, Ruparaga, and Aruparaga. Three worlds are born. One is Kama world, and the other one is Rupa world, and the final one is Arupa world. It is easier when you understand how these worlds operate, and when you understand how the worlds are being operated, it would be easier for you to understand the logic behind it, how the finer levels would give you less suffering and rougher levels would give you more suffering when you get attached. So the level of suffering is dependent on level of attachment and level of avidya and level of the nature in your mind which prevails at the last instance based on these avidyas. So Kama Loka or Kama worlds are the worlds that we are living. Human world is a Kama world, and there are 6 more worlds that are above us, which are full of deities that have who have finer bodies, and they also have the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, as well as we all know the mind. So they experience the suffering in different levels. It is easier for us to to get this human world as the example. So we know the sufferings we have because we have 5 senses. We have a body which is vexatious all the time. We have to do various kinds of things to get rid of the vexation, and that goes on throughout our lifetime. But when it goes to Rupa worlds, the Brahmas, we call them Brahmas, the individuals in Rupa Loka, Rupa worlds, we call them Brahma, and there are several worlds which have which belongs to this Rupa area. So There, these Brahmas only have eyes, ears, and a mind. Of course, they have a body, but those are for visual purposes and not for touch. So these bodies are made of lighted bodies. Does not, they cannot be touched, but has the physical appearance. So we can see the outline of the body, hands and face and everything. But those are for visual purposes, and there's the mouth, but that is not for talking. That is for that is not for eating, or that is there's the tongue is not for tasting, but to use in vocalization or to talk, and the nose is for the purpose of the visualization and not for smelling. So those are the people or individuals in Rupa Loka, Rupa worlds. So Rupa world, in the individuals in Rupa worlds has less pain, less problems, but they have problems. No, don't get me wrong that thinking that these are better places. No, the fire is less or the burning is less, the vexation is less, but they have a certain degree of vexation at those levels as well. But it is lesser than here because they don't have a nose, tongue, or a body, so they don't have to worry about these things and they don't get vexatious when seeing those items. This the avidya nature is dormant in them. That's why it is not uh, causing any problems in them. That is why it is even that is not a good place to settle down, because as soon as the energy is gone, as soon as the causes are eliminated, which creates that effect of being a Brahma, then you fall back down to the hells as well as the karma world, where there are a lot of vexation. So that is not a place to settle down. And then comes the Arupa worlds. In the Brahmas, in Arupa worlds, there are 4 Arupa worlds. They only have a mind. They don't have a physical body. They have a very a small part for the physical, because you have to connect with the physical world to become a living being. So they have a thing called Vastu Dasaka, a single atom, and that atom is what is attached with the mind. So mental thinking ability is there. They can think. They don't have eyes, they don't have ears, they don't have nose, tongue, or a body. They only have a mind. Now that is the amount of vexation there is very, very less, but it has its vexation on its own level, but lesser. So these are the 3 worlds that are created because of our actions that we create out of Kama Raga, Rupa Raga, and Arupa Raga. And the people or individuals that are there in those worlds are people who lived in on this soil um, in early times. So that is Kama Raga, Rupa Raga, Arupa Raga, which explains the nature of Raga. Now we know that Raga does not come alone; it comes with Moha. So now when the Raga, now you know that Moha is creates the sort of the background for Raga to occur, and they come together. Raga, it is like the 2 sides of a coin. Cannot separate the 2, separate one from another. So what is Moha? That is Dosha. Now Dosha is a result of this, again, Moha. So Dosha also comes with Moha. these are also like the two sides of a coin, cannot be separated. So I will explain dosha with a example again. Let's go back to the example where the person wanted to eat that the delicious cake that he smelt on the way home. So let's say the person smelt it and started the process of raga, and now he is walking home, and he make plans to buy that or have that cake tomorrow, the next day. But when he comes back on the next day, the shop is closed. Now that is a problem because you had plans. Now you have to change your plans. Now that creates a conflicting mindset. You are in conflict. What happened? I had all my plans today to go and have this delicious cake, but the shop is closed. So those are, if we go to the etymology, the meaning is second version. Second version means the first version is raga. But when you cannot achieve what you wanted through raga, you fall into the second version, which is dosha, which is a very, very bad thing to happen, which is very, very rough, vexatious. You can feel the vexation in your mind, body, full of disappointment, full of hatred, hate, anger, then fear. Everything is are byproducts of dosa. So this dosa, you have to understand that it does not come alone, because as soon as the moha is gone, dosa cannot last. Say you, as soon as you the shop, as soon as you see the shop which is closed, as a person who has understood the reality of the world, these the true nature, anicca dukkha anatta, you come into good senses that what was I doing? I was just fooled by the delusions of avidya, and now only I could come into my senses. And he comes into his senses. As soon as he comes into his senses, he sees that there's no value, and this is just a uh, just a errand or a quest for suffering, and he understands it all. And then at that moment, the dosa goes away, because all along this time your eyes were closed, but this closed shop opened your eyes and you could see the reality. And as soon as you see the reality, you came into your good senses, and your dosa, there's no reason for the dosa to prevail. Dosa just vanishes. You come into good senses, and you just walk away. What was I thinking? What was I doing? Would be the uh, mindset that you would have at that point. So this dosa also, just like moha, has a very deep roots. It's the same for the raga as well. So the deepest root in raga is the rupa raga, and then it becomes rupa raga, and the most rougher and denser area of raga is kama raga. So it's the same for those as well. It starts with a uh, very fine roots, and we can call conflict. Conflict is what starts it all. And conflicts become anger, anger becomes hatred, and hatred becomes a very weaponizing power. So when it comes to Dosha, so the person, the same person, the shop was closed, so he goes back, but he does not come. He's a lay person, Putakjana, does not have any idea of Dhamma. Goes home again. It's okay. I'll come tomorrow. I'll buy this tomorrow. And tomorrow also he go on the next day also he goes home and plans to buy this delicious cake. So this so story might be a bit exaggerating, but I am telling it anyway to make a point here. So the money he thought that he would use to buy this cake because of a inevitable reason, because of some problem he had to use on something else. So let's say his mother was ill, the child was ill, and he had to use all the money on that disease, on that child. So now he has nothing in his pocket. But the need to buy that cake can say we can apply to a drug, and that would be more suitable. Let's say addictive drug. So he want to buy it somehow. So what does he do? He would think of bad ways of buying it. Stealing, mugging, whatever it is, or stealing money or stealing the piece of cake. Now, those can get you to big troubles. Now, this is just a this example just covers up a specific area. But when you think in a broad way, hurting and killing is a result of disappointment, is a result of hate, anger, or in other words, dosa. Stealing, robbing is a result of desha, disappointment, not being able to latch on to what you wanted through raga. When that happens, you decided, I'll steal it. I'll take it somehow, some way or other. Unethical relationships is a result of those. You cannot have it in a natural way, so you decided other ways, more unethical ways. What comes out of our mouth originally is the truth. If somebody asks, where did you go? The original answer which comes to our mind is where we actually went. But when the conflict occurs that either you should save yourself, or either you should save, or I should, whether you should trick the other person, you start contemplating on lies, thinking about telling lies. So using harsh words, using meaningless words, slandering, and also everything is a result of conflict, and you have to save what you find dear, find valuable, but in the process you are creating negative energies. So that is the problem when it comes to Raga, Dosha, and Moha. Now, I'll summarize it with an example. You want to go, you have a bowl full of gems in front of you, in 100 meters in front of you, 100 meters in front of you, there's a bowl full of gems. And you start walking towards that bowl of gems. And the bowl of gems symbolizes the value, the importance, the bliss. In other words, the ignorance. So you are attached. Now the walking symbolizes raga. You are walking towards the bowl of gems. Each step you take increases your happiness. I am getting closer to that bowl of gems, and it will be mine only. And I would be so happy. And those are the ragic thoughts the person would have. And he is talking to himself and talking about the value, the things he would do when he get that ball of gems. And he's acting or walking towards it. But the world is not a nice place. Other people also are having the same thought and walking towards that ball of gems. When I, the person who walks towards the ball of gems, see the other people who are working towards the same fortune of me, then you become jealous, you become competitive, and you start thinking about ways that you can own it and the others would lose it. So you do unethical things. So other peoples also think in the same way. They also see you coming towards their ball of gems. What do? They put various obstacles in between you and the ball. They put a very fearsome dog in front of you. And this dog is coming towards you so that you cannot go towards that ball of gems. So what does happen? If the attachment is so powerful that you're determined, I would do anything to obtain that ball of gems, you'd kick or hurt the dog. But if your attachment is lesser, then you thought like this: I would like to have that ball of gems, but I would not kill for that. It is not that worthy. So you would turn back and you would lose, yes, in this competitive avidya world, or world full of avidya. As a Arya, you would lose the lay people's battle. You would lose it, but you would win the sansara. That's the difference. You would lose the ball of gems, but you would win the nibbana, bliss, the real bliss, the eternal bliss. So that is the difference. So you changed your way back and you just gave up on that. So initially also it was a thought that you started with avidya, and the dog coming towards you got you to your good senses, and you started thinking, what was I doing? I was I was enraged with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. I was full with Raga, Dvesha, Moha, and that was what fueling me towards that ball of gems. Now this dog could show me the correct path, and you would thank the dog, and you would turn back, and you would head home. Why should I go for those kinds of things in this temporary, impermanent ways of impermanent world? So that would be your ultimate idea. So if that person was a Pruthakjana or a lay person, then he would think, I would first hurt this dog. So you get a big stone and hit that dog, and dog does not go back. It comes towards you. Then you get something and you kill the dog, because dog's life is not worthy in your eyes when you compare it with the ball of gems. So the dog is dead. Now now you are more determined than ever to get that ball of gems. So you work faster, and other people see this. Then they decide they would hire somebody or a thug or someone to stop your way. So a thug come in between you and the ball. So you have to decide now, what is more worthy, ball of gems or a human life? When you have decided already the ball of gems is more worthy, you would not have second thoughts in destroying what comes in your way. Now see that how dosha occurs. Dosha is a very malicious uh, malicious element. So it has very bad repercussions as well, bad consequences, which would finally drag you to the four hells. Because when you are spreading fire, spreading hate, what you would get is a place that made of fire. So that is the story which I have to um, share with you, and that is what explains or summarizes everything about Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. So now the important aspect, eliminating or getting rid of Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Now what that would do to us. Now we discussed about one aspect, which is what Raga, Dvesha, Moha does to us, or when Raga is increased, Dvesha and Moha are increased, what that would do to us, how that would burn us, how that would put us in constant suffering. Now we have to think the opposite, what the elimination of Raga would do to us, what elimination of Dosha and Moha would do to us. That is the cooler pathway. Now, one pathway that we just discussed up until now is the hotter pathway. The deeper you go in that path, the more you burn. So you are in a desert full of, all around you is burning sand. There's no water, and you are in the sun, and the sun is also very hot and burning. We are already there. We are already in that desert. desert of Sansara. Now, when we hear this Dhamma from a Kalyana Mitra, what we would do is we would turn back. We would not go deeper and deeper into the big desert. We would turn back and we would come back. So each step that we take out of this desert towards the cooler environment is blissful. That it is not that when you eliminate all the raga, dvesha and moha, you become blissful. No, it is a journey. Just like the raga, dvesha, moha journey, which became more and more difficult with each step, the quite opposite happens with elimination of raga, dvesha, moha. Each step that you take in this pathway is blissful. The first step is blissful, and the second step is more blissful than the first one, and this goes on up until you attain Nibbana, and that is the end. That is the maximum that you can have, and that ends our journey, our journey. So think about the moha. No, so now when you are eliminating the raga, dvesha, moha, it also comes with the dense part of moha. Initially, what happens is dense part of moha is eliminated, and when the moha is gone, the corresponding raga and dvesha also goes along with it. As we spoke, moha is a big spectrum. It has a very finer end as well as a very rougher and a denser end. So we are talking about the denser end. So initially what happens, the denser end, or the area that in the last example about the ball of gems, we talked about how the Putagjana or the lay person would do anything, even kill, even hurt, even do all sorts of unethical deeds to achieve what he wants. Now that is the denser moha that person have. So that would be gone when you become aware of anicca dukkha anatta, or when you become sotapanna, a person who has opened his eyes of wisdom. When the eyes of wisdom are opened, that person, since the moha level, that denser moha is gone, the raga or that burning need to attain to something is already gone. And because of that much of vexation is gone, you don't have to work that harder to get rid of that burning sensation. So the level of response to a conflicting mind or disappointment would be lesser. You would never go for a kill or hurt somebody when you have seen this Dhamma. So that itself is a big leap from the middle of the desert towards the end of the desert. And the end, so this is a very big leap that even though you don't see it, in Supreme Buddha's teachings, he has said, if the amount of defilements a lay person has is compared with the water of the ocean, what is left in a sotapanna person is what I have in my hand. When you put your hand in the water and when you get it back, you see few drops of water hanging and water layer which is covered around your palm, and that is the amount of defilements a Arya person would have when compared with the layperson who has an ocean or defilements that are like the ocean. So that is the comparison. So this is a comparison and written, and it is there in the Tripitaka. So, or Pali Canon. So with this understanding about reality, that dense moha is gone. So as well as the dense raga and dvesha. So then the next step towards the nibbana, that person who understands the Arya Dhamma would start thinking in Arya way, think more, or start contemplating in using Dhamma about the surroundings that he see or she sees. So when that happens, the amount of moha starts to reduce. So that is the prajna vimukta pathway. So that person is constantly doing the vidarshana or doing the thinking with wisdom. So he practices the thinking pattern with wisdom. And when that is done, that person's wisdom starts to develop gradually, reducing the moha, in fact, reducing the raga and dvesha. So another pathway one would go is the cheto vimukta pathway. In that, you would get rid of rougher kama raga with finer raga. That means rupa raga. So you get whatever in Arya discipline, what we do is we get Dhamma. So it ends up in Dharma raga. So Dharma raga is you start wandering, the same wandering part is there, wandering in a specific area, and that specific area is Dhamma. So you get Dhamma. So you know that Dhamma does not belong to it does not facilitate the inputs of nose, tongue, or body. So it does not belong to Kama Raga. Now, when you start thinking using Dhamma and seeing things which are belong to areas of Dhamma, statues of Supreme Buddha, Tripitaka, Pali Canon, books of Dhamma, whatever it is, and listening to Dhamma discussions and everything, and having Dhamma discussions, everything helps develop Dharma Raga, and that would get rid, that would get your focus from Kama Raga towards Dharma Raga. So that would reduce the action of that means action of raga. So you have the mind wandering away in various areas when you see various things, when the inputs are being given from the five senses, that characteristic of your mind would start to reduce. It does not necessarily mean that your moha is gone, but your moha becomes dormant. So as we talk, it is like a two sides of a coin. So you cannot eliminate raga only without eliminating moha, but you can suppress the moha and suppress the raga and get your mind to a specific point or a specific condition where the raga, level of raga in your mind is very, very reduced, but it is dormant, it is still there in your mind. So when you do that, we call it cheto vimukta. So cheto vimukta and prajna vimukta, when they come together, we called it ubato vimukta. Ubato means something like both. So when somebody achieves this Cheto Vimukta in the mind and practices Vidarshana, because an Arya person would anyway, when you go even with the Dharma Raga, these two happen simultaneously at the same time, because you chose Dharma as the input or as the base that you would work on to develop your Dharma Raga. So since the base is Dharma, and Dharma explains about Anicca Dukkha Anatta, of course the Prajna also would be blossoming in the path in concurrently. So that is how Raga is eliminated, Dvesha and Moha are eliminated. So when that happens gradually, you would the four colors, Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arihat, are referred to. Sotapanna Pala is referred to as end of suffering, and not end of suffering, but elimination of most of the suffering in this world. And the Sakadagami Pala is end of the disease. What disease? Karma is a disease, and this disease is gone. Anagami is compared to even if the disease is gone, you are still not cured. So when the disease is gone, you are still malnourished, you are still not in good shape, not in good condition, you still cannot walk properly, your energy level is less. So that is the nature of a person who has gone through a very severe illness. So that person needs to be nourished and treated properly, cared properly, given all the nutrients and everything, and then that person becomes really cured, becomes a normal in condition, or in other words, that person becomes healthy. So that is compared to Anagami. So the karma is so dense, karma raga, it is eliminated in two different sections. The first section, the disease is gone. Then the second section, when you attain Anagami Pala, you become healthy. Still, you have the last part, where all the Ruparaga, Aruparaga, Mana, Uddacha, Vidya, which are the last 5 barriers that you have to cross to attain Nibbana, has to be attained, or has to be eliminated. Those 5 items should be eliminated, and that would get you to Arihat Pala, and that would eliminate all the sufferings in this that are in your life. And that still you would have to face the sufferings which are with your body, especially the suffering of hunger, thirsty, hotness, coldness, everything has to be bared, even though you have got rid of all the sufferings that are created with Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. Because Nibbana is not elimination of the body, but elimination of Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So all the sufferings which are created with Raga, Dvesha, and Moha are gone at the end when you attain an Arihat Pala. And at the end, when you attain Nibbana, or Parinibbana, at the end of this life, that is the end of all the sufferings. All the bodily sufferings also would be gone at that point. So that would be the end of this Dhamma talk, and the forum is open for any questions from today's discussion, or if you have any other questions regarding anything regarding Dhamma, you can ask those questions as well.
There are some bombings on answer. If you have any questions, please forward the questions to Venerable Thero. from the audience members? Since apparently there are no questions, would you be kind enough to explain the concept of the karma guna, or the qualities of that qualities that give rise to karma or raga?
Yes. So now karma guna means now there's a thing where when we are born as humans or as deities who has a body which has a deficiency towards karma. So that is the important part you need to understand, because karma guna means qualities of karma when you translate it into English. But you have to understand it and explain or expand the meaning, because it might give you a false idea if you don't go with the description of the meaning. So qualities of karma are in the outside world. So when we see objects, when we hear sounds, when we smell things, taste things, and when we feel things, we find some objects are facilitating the karma raga. Or they are objects of karma, which has qualities of karma. So how does this happen? Let's go back to the mindsets of Brahmas, who does not have a body or a body for a physical touch, smell, or taste. So they do not have those inputs. So they do not find these items as items which has qualities of karma, because they do not entertain the idea of karma. They don't have that. The mind and the body which is created, of course they have it in their minds dormant, which is very buried, very deep in their mindsets, but it does not come out, because the mind and the body which fuels the dhyana, the karma, the mindsets that are that fills their bodies and minds, does not have that aspect of karma. So the body also does not have that aspect of karma. So they do not see that. They see these items as objects of karma. Say, and when you compare it with normal people, that means humans and also deities, they have a body which is deficient of karma. For example, what you would seek at your deathbed, I take the deathbed because it is easier. The real term should be when your life, or when all the lifespan of your bhava is gone. At the end of the lifespan, you would decide, if you had avidya, you would decide where you cannot decide. It would decide, or the constant actions, constant habits of yourself, and good and bad deeds that you have done would create the perfect environment for the next life. And this next life, the energy for the next life, is what is decided on the level of avidya. So if you have done good things, meritorious deeds, that would create the environment for a godly life. And the avidya, you like giving, you like helping people. So that it would be the with avidya, of course, you can do those things without avidya, but with avidya, you would decide your next destination is realms of deities. So, and at that point, when you become a human, your thought process could be something similar to this. So you like watching, you like hearing, you like tasting, smelling, and touching. So you do like those inputs. That's why you are born. You were born as a human in this human world. So what you are actually asking is I need to feel blissful. Because you don't like the suffering images, don't like the suffering sounds, you don't like the suffering smells, taste, or touches. You like the blissful ones. So what you are thinking is I don't like being separated from these blissful images. So that's what the problem is. That's what creates the energy for the next life. So you cannot change it. What you have to do is you have to follow the Arya Tangika Magga or Eightfold Pathway to get this kind of a thought process eliminated. Otherwise, thinking or having determined mindset would not do that. So uh, you have this idea where you feel that I want to experience these blissful images, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches, no matter what. So I don't want to be deleted from this life. So you hang on, you try to fight, and you try to live. So that is what happens at the deathbed. But actually, what you are asking when you see from a point of reality is you are asking because in the external world, as we said, there are these karma guna or qualities of karma in objects of karma has got us into this delusional mindset where we think that actually these things are in the external world. That means the blissfulness is in the external world. But in reality, what happens is the body deficient of images, body and mind deficient of images, sounds, smells, taste, and touches give this false sensation, delusional sensation that these items are blissful. But in reality, it is the deficiency being treated is felt as blissful. So what you are actually asking at the deathbed is, since the external world is neutral, what you are asking is, please give me a mind and a body which is vexatious so that I can experience these blissfulness in the external world. So you create a karma gunika body or a body and a mind that is suitable for that body, which has this nature or characteristic to see the external world as karma. It is like the bottle and the cap. The bottleneck has the screws and the cap has the quite opposite of that. So it just fits. So you have to create a fitting body to experience the blissfulness. So you create a deficient body and a mind. So now you see the qualities of karma in the external objects. So that is how the qualities of karma comes to existence. Now, as humans, that is a very big issue when we are trying to eliminate all the raga, dvesha, and moha. Because the body is solid, we cannot change it. Anyway, we have to bear it for 60, 70 years, whichever the time we have to spend on this earth. So through that time, we have to deal with this until our mind, the avidya, is eliminated from our mind. So these objects has the qualities of karma, because our body is and mind is created in such a way so that we feel those things as blissful. So that is the story of karma gunika nature. This is what we try to even though that is why when it comes to Arya discipline, we try to get isolated when we are trying to go to extreme levels to practice the Arya Dhamma for to attain Nibbana the quickest way we can. We try to get isolated from these karma gunika objects, so that it would be easier to maintain our thoughts of dharma raga, and it would be easier for this as this body and mind is created, especially the body is created in such a way that it would find these objects as objects of karma, because it has the deficiency. And since the body and mind are kind of glued together, the deficiency of body would create, increase or act on the deficiencies of the mind, and the deficiencies of mind would act on the deficiencies of the body. So it would act on one another and act on vice versa, and create problems, and create more and more vexation. So that is the thing about karma gunika nature.
Many merits, Swamin Wahanse. Are there any questions from the audience? We have been in this session for almost 1 hour 50 minutes. Maybe we can conclude this session with Punyanumudana. I respectfully invite our Thero to conduct the merit transfer. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So today we discussed about a very important topic in Arya discipline, which is Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. And we know that our primary goal as a Arya person is to eliminate these 3 defilements from our lives. So today, almost for 2 hours, we have discussed Dhamma. And discussing Dhamma is a meritorious deed. And we tried to use these 2 hours to our maximum benefit, listening and discussing most pure Dhamma to understand the reality of the world and to eliminate these defilements that we have in our systems. So with that meritorious power, immeasurable meritorious power, which is generated today during these discussions, and all the meritorious power or meritorious power that is generated through meritorious deeds that we have done throughout the sansari journey, may agglomerate together, and may they act as a force to eliminate all the barriers, obstacles, hindrances that we face when we are practicing the Arya Dhamma, when we are following the Eightfold Pathway, and all the barriers that would cover up our eyes of wisdom may get eliminated, and may everyone get the perfect environment to practice the Arya Dhamma, ultimately understanding the reality of the world, attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this blessing with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, in this special occasion, which is Dhamma Savana or Dhamma discussion, listening to Dhamma, is a very rare thing to happen in this universe, because a supreme Buddha is a very rare thing to happen. A person who follows Dhamma is a very rare thing to be seen. So this, in fact, this discussion becomes a very rare thing to happen. So there are various people who have helped us during this samsaric journey to have this discussion. Especially without our parents, we would never have been able to have a body and a mind in this specific time, in this specific place, to have a discussion. So we are in debt towards them. So let us remind all the deceased relations, our parents who have been caring for us all during this sansaric journey, teachers who taught us what is right and what is wrong, people who showed us the correct way, people who gave us jobs and helped us have a decent living so that we have this kind of free time to have Dhamma discussions, and people who created these Zoom platforms, constructed these temples, and constructed the infrastructure and mobile connections, internet connections and devices, people who sponsored for these events. Let us remind all of them as well, because without them, we would not have been able to have this Dhamma discussion fruitfully. And also, let us remind all the beings that were hurted and harmed by our actions. Because of avidya, because of raga, dvesa, and moha, we might have hurted and harmed by doing 10 unwholesome deeds. We might have killed, hurted, stealed, robbed, and had unethical relationships. We might have used our words in a very destructive manner, using them for lying, slandering. We might have used harsh words, meaningless words. We might have thought in a very damaging way, having distorted and wrong thoughts, wrong views, mischievous thoughts, and malicious thoughts. So, due to these harmful actions, many would have been hurt during this sansari journey. Now we know the reality. Now we know what avidya can do. We know our faults. With knowing, let us remind all the sentient beings who were hurted and harmed by us during this sansari journey, and with the determination that we are not going to do those kinds of unethical deeds again, let us transfer these immeasurable meritorious deeds meritorious power to them, as well as a compensation for our bad actions. And also let us remind all the deities in the 6 realms of gods and the Brahma gods in the 20 planes of Brahma, and also all the sentient beings in the universe. And let us transfer this immeasurable meritorious power to all of them with metta and kindness. If they are in miserable places, may they refrain from doing sins. May they replace those sins with meritorious deeds. May they lead happy lives, ultimately understanding the reality of the world, attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Transfer this meritorious power to them with metta and kindness with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And we'll be ending this session with a blessing with a Pali stanza. Abhaya silisa nichang vada pichayino chatharo dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukhambalang ayurarogya sampatti sabga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti minhate samichatu
Sadhu. Silavantan gunavantan punyaketan anutteram dullabena mayaladhan unvaram Sariputtadi Theranam Tan Patipatiya Sadha Silan Buddha Buddham Namah. Sadhu, sadhu.
May everyone attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.